impaired at some point of their life. This is the UAE's National Classification of Disabilities. This was released in 2018. Disability is classified into 11 main classifications. We have intellectual disability, communication disorders, autism spectrum disorders, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, which is known as ADHD, specific learning disorders, visual impairment, hearing impairment, deaf blind disability, physical disability, psycho-emotional or mental disorders, and multiple disability. We're going to talk about the three main themes here in the hackathon. We have the intellectual disability, physical, and mental disorders. So why do we choose these three themes? So we will be focusing on solutions for intellectual, physical, and mental disabilities for the following reasons. According to the recent statistics by Dubai Statistics Center in Dubai, intellectual disability represents 30% of total disability, and physical disability represents 33% of total disability in UAE. According to WHO, also, the World Health Organization, 1 in 4 people in the world will be affected by mental or neurological disorders at some point in their life. So it's a very common condition. Neuropsychological or mental disorders in UAE are estimated to contribute to 19.9% to almost 20% of the global burden of disease. This is according to WHO in 2008. So that's why we're choosing these three themes. And because actually mental health was not one part of the general disability in UAE, it's recently added because of its huge burden and because of its increased statistics. Okay, so here we'll give a detailed explanation of each type of disability or the three themes that we have chosen. First of all, we'll talk about intellectual disability. So an intellectual disability, usually it affects all of these parts of the human being areas. It affects learning, understanding, processing information, problem solving, communication, social skills, and general life skills. So it affects almost every part of the of that individual's life. So adaptive behavioral disabilities, it affects the conceptual, social, and practical skills. That means that individual, he will have problems with learning. It's like processing and getting the information and learning in general. He will have problem with social, like social interaction with other people, individuals, family members, and also in his daily life, like self-help skills, adaptive skills, and intellectual disabilities. It can be mild form or it can be a severe form. It can be a mild form that the individual can practice his day-to-day activities, interact with people, to a severe form that he really needs continuous supervision and continuous and really extensive kind of therapy. So, as we said, intellectual disability. If we say what are the main important things that we can talk about, is it can be present from birth. Usually, person with intellectual disability are diagnosed before the age of 18. So it usually can be present at birth, like people who are born with Down syndrome, some genetic disorders, some other disorders like that can affect their intellectual disability can be because of certain disease, like genetic diseases, like or some sort of disease that affect later in life, like for example during adulthood or during childhood, like for example ADHD or autism also can be accompanied or can be also accompanied by some intellectual delay. It can get evidence after adulthood. Some people will not show during childhood. It will represent itself as a sort of learning difficulty. Some students in the school, they will have some learning difficulties. Then we will find out by IQ testing that they have some intellectual delay or intellectual disability. So it should be assessed by a psychologist. So either it's evidence, as we said, from birth, or if people show some delays, some difficulty or delays in social skills and learning, then they should be assessed by a psychologist or a psychiatrist or specialized in doing IQ testing and other sorts of psychological testing. and it becomes a permanent condition. So usually intellectual disability can be reduced, can get improved, but it doesn't go away. Usually it's there throughout that person's life. So, as we said, it's not an illness or disease. It's just a delay, a disability. We can say this person is with intellectual delay, needs the right support. These type of individuals usually they will need first of all the right assessment and diagnosis by a specialist. Then they will need a right type of treatment and therapy and support throughout in the community. It cannot be cured or treatment with medication. Medication can help, but usually it needs continuous daily therapy and daily monitoring of these people. People with intellectual disabilities can learn enough life skills to cope and be involved in their profession, family, and community. Usually, any type of disability does not affect the individual only. It affects the family or the community around him. So we need therapies and education to the families, to the environment, to the community as a whole to accept that person, accept his abilities, and welcome him and include him in the society. And also, it's very important as a general role we have in here in UAE or in Dubai is the inclusive environment. We don't want to segregate them in special schools or in special places. Usually we are promoting inclusion in the society, in the schools, in the workplaces, everywhere. So what are the challenges we're looking for? Usually they have limited intellectual ability, what we say IQ below 70. Usually almost all the population, the IQ is between 75, 80, goes up to 100, 120. But for those people, their IQ is below 70. That means of course they will get benefit from therapy and from learning and from continuous learning, but they cannot achieve the level of their same peers at the same age. They have limited they have limited adaptive behavior. That means learning and acquiring information. Also, they have a difficulty in it, and it originates before the age of 18, as we said. Expressive and receptive language. Also, there's effect. This all are affected. So, as we said, the areas with challenges, they have difficulty in learning. So, learning new information, learning new skills. They will need many, what do you call it, techniques or to help them learning, like visual schedules, something to continuously rehearse the information. Also, there's very important part of teaching and learning people around them, the family members, the teachers, therapists need to be educated and know how to deal with this person. Difficulty in concentration. Also, they have very short attention span and concentration. That's why they will need continuous training, repetitions of the information that is given to them. Sometimes they display inappropriate behavior. That's why they need some sort of behavioral therapy and to display for them how to have appropriate behavior, put a plan. Usually, it's very important. Each individual of them should have an individualized therapy plan that goes through them and reduce these inappropriate behaviors. May not be able to live or work independently. Of course, we're always aiming into independency. All of our work and therapy and help to these people, it aims into to be independent. But some of them might not be able to live or work independently, which puts a burden to the families, a burden to the community. That's why it's very important to have the right support for them. They may have also difficulties in group settings. As much as we have them include, sometimes it's difficult for them to be in group settings, and so that's why it's very important to educate even the peers and the siblings and the peers in the environment and the community around them. So what sorts of solutions we're looking for? We're looking some sort of solutions to alleviate these all challenges. So DHA, we are looking into solutions that will assess the patient himself, the caregivers and families around him, the health authorities, and even not only the health, the social, because these can be included in the social environment, in the educational environment, and in the health. So we need solutions that will help the professionals around them and also their family members. Also, solutions could be products that could enhance their learning, their cognitive abilities, their communication. There are many sort of now there are so many sort of communication devices, communication have the things that help them communicate because some of them even they might not be vocal as much as they have therapy, but still they need some sort of alternative communication way. Also, that will enhance their behavior. So additionally, we're looking into solutions that could collate and collect data of research analysis that would enable scientists enhance or develop products or services and also help the administrative services develop policies and standards to enable people with intellectual disabilities. There are so many therapies and there are so many services are given in the community. Some of them, so families usually seek whatever they hear about. They might hear each other. One family member will talk about something that helps their family member or their child with intellectual delay, and then others will follow. So you want something evidence-based, that they like a resource that they can go through, and it's really evidence-based. That it's not just whatever people go through or what is the market is giving to them. Also, we have here in UAE so many like the health authority, the social authorities, the educational authorities, and the facilities. They are giving so many types of help, support, and services. Even some of them are but like parent support groups and all of these, but we need some sort of like a database for all of these, like information that all of the families they can go to and they can find these information easily. Also solutions to connect families, caregivers, healthcare practitioners, teachers, therapists, and other related professionals who are involved in the care of individuals with intellectual disabilities to enhance communication, follow management plans, and track any difficulties. I was meeting one of the professionals, she's a psychologist, in like few weeks back, and I was asking her what is the most difficulty they're going through. She was saying the families will come with their person or uh, person with disability like intellectual delays or mental disability. They will give them the treatment plan, they will give them the therapy and everything, and then they will not know what happened to that person. And then few months later, they will come to the emergency with a crisis, with really severe, difficult behavior or something life-threatening, like because these people can go through life-threatening situations that the parents cannot handle, so they bring them to the emergency. So these professionals need a way to track these people. Like, are they taking their medication? Are they following their therapy? Are the families really care? Because it also there's, of course, it's a huge burden on the families, but we want to make sure and empower these families, and they make sure that to give them the track of the importance of these therapies, to take the medication, to take these their family member or their child to the required therapy, and so the professional can track them and make sure that this individual is following that therapy plan, so will not go through those crisis situations. Also for teachers and other professionals or therapies, that they will know what each of them is doing, like some sort of communication between everyone. Um, this in a brief about intellectual disabilities. Now we'll go to mental disabilities. There are so many, so in solution-wise, there are so many similarities between these two types of disabilities. So if we talk about mental disabilities, according to WHO, mental disability refers to a wide range of mental health conditions or disorders that affect a person. As we said, intellectual disability usually affects the person before the age of 18. Usually there are some sort of a cause, like a genetic cause, environmental, some sort of um, birth defects or delays. Like sometimes we can identify the cause. But for mental disabilities, it can occur at any age group, at any life age during the individual's lifespan. Sometimes the person will be living normally and going to school and everything. Then something would happen during when he's an adult, or even to elderly people. So usually it affects a behavioral pattern, perception, thought process, and emotional conditioning. Mental disability can onset at any age and by people of all levels of intellectual ability. Even smart people can get some mental delay or disability. Most of these disorders can be successfully treated if it's identified early. If it's identified early, it can be successfully treated. Uh, not the opposite of intellectual delay, which usually it persists through the lifespan. So some examples of mental disability, we have anxiety disorders, addictive behaviors, bipolar disorders, borderline personality disorders, depression and depressive disorders, eating disorders, post-traumatic stress disorders. I'll just give a brief about each one. Like anxiety disorders, when the patient is excessively anxious, like for example, like people have excessively anxious about washing their hands or on some situations. Addictive disorder behaviors like addiction to alcohol, addiction to drugs, all of these that mostly sometimes adolescents can go through these addictive behaviors. Bipolar disorders is like the person will be having sometimes periods of severe depression and severe the opposite of depression, like happiness and talking too much and not able to sleep, like between. That's why it's called bipolar. That's like two phases. And then borderline personality disorders, like some sort of personality disorders that they go through. Depression is like most of us will know about it. Like this affects sleep, affects the diet, affects the mood. They will have a low mood, and it will affect the day-to-day living. They will stop enjoying things that they usually enjoy, and there are so many like it will even sometimes it affects their relationship with others. They stop going to school or to work, and also eating disorders like anorexia, like they stop eating and or bulimia, that they will binge eating and then vomit all what they eat. And then post-traumatic stress disorders can happen. People who are going to wars or severe traumatic situation that happens in life, that they can go through post-traumatic stress disorders. Of course, many of people can go through any of these, but if it starts affecting the life, some people will have suicidal ideation, or they can have harming themselves or harming others, or it really affects their activities. They stop doing their jobs, what they're supposed to do in life. Uh, I mean that when it goes to that level, then we call it a disability. If it's a mild form that can be treated, people recognize themselves into going into these sort of emotions or this type of um, uh, like different things they can feel, then they can go to their physician and treat themselves. We don't call it a disability unless it really affects their life, it really affects their day-to-day living. So mental disability can be both
لا بس بنفكر فيها الحين.
بس ايش لازم نسوي؟ شوف احنا عندنا
صوت على البطن اوكي واحد يكتب ذاتها تفتح البروفايل على طول حق المحامي يعني
لازم يكون فيه
اي بس بس قصدي انا استخدم مابت ايش التيب كذا قصدي
عندما تسوي مابل هو اصلا كله يعني
اي بس بيكون يفتح بيكون ما بيكون شيء
مو بالمابل
يفتح
لازم نسوي سيرش كومباوند سيرش كومباوند
اجيب الشرح. Sorry for this technical issue. Okay, so we'll go on. We're talking about mental disability. So it can be both permanent and temporary, as we said. So factors, we have biological factors such as genes or brain chemistry. Sometimes people who have family history of some sort of mental disorder, they're more predisposed to have that mental illness. Life experiences such as trauma or abuse, people are exposed to abuse or trauma, they can get to post-traumatic stress disorders. Family history, as we said, or mental health problems. Although the exact cause of most mental illnesses is not known, it is becoming clear through research that many of these conditions are caused by a combination of biological, psychological, and environmental factors. We have put in some resource over there, but as we said, like sometimes there's no cause, sometimes we can find some causes that can lead to these mental disorders. Mental disability is diagnosed and treated by a multidisciplinary team of professionals, including family physicians, psychiatrists, psychologists, other specialties, teachers, nurses, social workers. So usually there's no one person that can treat these conditions. Usually it's a teamwork. We call it a multidisciplinary team of professionals. Mental disability is treated and managed by sometimes it needs medication, and also, but the most important thing is the psychosocial support, interrelationship between individuals' thoughts and behavior towards social factors. It's like we need that social support. I mean, by a psychologist, a social worker, the understanding of the family members, the teachers of what this person is going through and how they can help him go through whatever his mental problem is. With the right treatment, mental disabled symptoms can be managed and individuals can live a normal and independent life. So the challenges, before I go through the challenges, of course, the most important thing we say is screening. That's why there are so many screening tools for depression, for other kind of mental disorders, that we can pick up any disorder early It can be done by healthcare professionals or even by educational facilities that they can pick up any adolescent or person going through any mental problem so they can put them on the right track before going to the severe, before this problem becomes severe. So the challenges, we have lack of community awareness between parents and teachers. Like sometimes if a student going into some like drug abuse or something, the parents need to know will be aware of the signs, like what are these individuals going through, and pick up the signs early and to help them. So there's very important of a community awareness, and we don't put a stigma, like it's not a stigma or a bad thing that this person is going to a psychologist or a psychiatrist. Accessibility to diagnosing, assessment, and management and rehabilitation services. There are so many diagnosing and rehabilitation services available, but there's a problem with accessibility. It's either because of awareness, as we said, or the person himself is not accepting to go to the right diagnosis. He skips the appointment. He doesn't want to go. He thinks that he can manage or treat himself on his own. But it's like any illness. They should get the right support. Lack of early detection through screening programs, very important to have those screening programs, as we said, and community involving in management programs. Like whatever we have a management program, the community needs to be aware, to be like they can sometimes prevent some of these mental illnesses. Like for example, not to go through the different behaviors or situations. They should have some knowledge. The community should have knowledge about how to be mindful, how to pick up any problem if they have early, and not to go through the stressful life events, how to take things easy, and to prevent going into mental disorders. Also, we have a challenge of accepting of mental disability due to social stigma. As we said, we don't want to put it as a social stigma. Diagnose at an evidence stage. We don't want to reach to a severe case that this affects the life, affects the goes to suicidal ideation and problem behaviors. We want to diagnose them early. Difficulty in articulating their thoughts. Sometimes they have difficulty in like they sometimes people with mental disability, they don't recognize themselves as having a problem or delay or disability. Family members around them, they need to recognize those signs. Social isolation by a person or community. Sometimes people will act weird, like especially people maybe with schizophrenia or other developmental or other mental disorders. They will act different way. So they might isolate themselves, or people they will avoid them or start isolating them. So we need to have that awareness to stop that social isolation, either by the person himself or by the community. So what sort of solutions we're looking for? We're looking into solutions that will have mental support applications, support groups, evidence-based support applications that they can easily go through and educate the community about these support applications. Taking control of digital stress in healthcare settings. Usually healthcare settings also, it's like in any kind of workplace settings. Healthcare, any kind of workplace, there's some now with the new technology we call digital stress, so we have to take control of these. Building accessible mental health literacy training and support of under-resourced healthcare workplaces. Supporting the mental health of long-term care workers. And role-trained support of caregivers, employees through digital solutions. There's so much burden put in on caregivers and family members. They want to give them the solutions and even recognize their, sometimes even caregivers or family members of people with disability or some sort of delay. Themselves, they have some mental disorder. So we want to give them solutions and identify their role and give them the right support. Also, we need self-management and support programs, community awareness solutions, as we said, training programs for healthcare, educational, and social professionals. We have really lack in professionals or therapists in this field. So we need really proper training programs and educational programs to train healthcare providers, education and social care professionals, even to educate the undergraduate or the high school graduates of the importance of going through this professions of therapy-wise or psychology, psychiatry, speech therapy, occupational therapy, all these social workers. We need really more people working in this because we have a lack of professionals in this place. Identifying workplace risk factors and providing the right support, and supporting mental health of caregivers like family members, as we said. Solutions to connect families, caregivers, healthcare practitioners, teachers, therapists, and other related professions who are involved in the care of individuals with mental disabilities to enhance communication between each other and between each other as therapists for the same person and between the families also. Because sometimes families, they listen from other families who went through the same problem more than they listen to healthcare providers or professionals in their field. And follow the management plans and track any difficulty. Also, families need a quick access to those professionals, so once they have any difficulty or any questions, they can quickly be answered by those professionals. Now we'll move to physical disabilities. One more thing I want to talk about, which maybe applies to all types of disability, is the prevention. There's very important role of prevention, like we need the community to be aware what are the prevention strategies. For example, before we have the screening program, premarital screening programs to identify if those couples are more prone to have a child with disability. During pregnancy, this mother should take some sort of medication, folic acid, other things to prevent any or decrease the likelihood of having some sort of delay in the child. Even the mothers themselves need to be educated about what are the developmental steps of those child, what is the normal development, how I track my baby's development, so they can see if there's any delay, whether it's intellectual, whether it's communication-wise, speech-wise, because that's how you know that this child is delayed in speech, delayed in motor development, delayed in social interaction with others, some sort of different or strange behaviors. So the mothers need to know, parents and families also need to know about what are the steps of normal development so they can track any delays early and then seek the appropriate support. Now we'll talk about physical disability. So physical disabilities is a limitation of a person's physical functioning, mobility, dexterity, and stamina. There's physical disability can affect the person's mobility, and so he needs sometimes certain equipment or certain support to help him do better in the community. So mobility impairment range from a lower body impairment, which may require use of canes, walkers, or wheelchairs, to upper body impairment, which may result in limitation or no use of the hands. It may take longer for individuals with mobility impairment to get from one place or workplace to another. So mobility impairments can affect the individual also at any age, from birth to adolescent to adult to elderly. It can be due to a certain genetic disorder, or it can be due to accidents, due to certain traumas during life, or elderly also more prone to have mobility or physical disability. So physical disability can be either, as we said, by birth, like people born with cerebral palsy, with spina bifida, with some sort of limb defects that affect the using of their limbs. Because physical disability, that means they cannot use their limbs, affects the hands, the arms, the spinal cord, all of those. So it can be congenital or acquired. Congenital means that it can be due to congenital defects. The child is born with muscle disorders, with nerve disorders, with bone disorders that affect their mobility. Some children with muscle disorders like myasthenia gravis, or nerve disorders, or cerebral palsy that affect the bones, they can have those disabilities, those physical disabilities, or acquired during the lifespan, like accidents or spinal cord injuries or other sort of injuries that can cause physical disabilities. So, as we said, it can be congenital disability, which are caused at birth, or attributed by accidents or illnesses like diabetes or can have like nerve problems, lead to amputation, and lead to physical disability. So physical disability requires someone's assistance, but also with the right rehabilitation, they can be able to be independent while using their walking aids or prosthesis devices, and the use of some sort of equipment to aid with mobility. So they will need with the right equipment, with the right aid, and the right training, they can be independent. And also the right environment, because people with physical disability, they will need right environment, like building and accessibility requirements, like maybe you notice everywhere now we have certain parking places, ramps, rails, a certain washroom equipment requirements. All of those need increase their accessibility to these places. So the challenges, we have a lack of relevant assistive technology, assistive devices, and rehabilitation devices. There are so many devices there, from low-tech to mid-tech to high-tech. So people with physical disability, they can have, they need some sort of assistive equipment that they will need them to go through their day-to-day living. They will have also financial and education and employment. With the right support and the right inclusion, they can even go through the right education and employment. So we need to empower them and give them the right support to have the confidence to go through all their education and employment process. Physical environment barriers. Of course, here in Dubai, we have all the buildings are applying to the universal design. We call it universal design or Dubai Code. Like all the buildings should be accessible to all sorts of physical disability and all kinds of disability, whether it's physical, mental, or hearing, or visual disabilities. Actually, making those buildings accessible doesn't help only people with physical disabilities, helping also mothers with babies on wheelchairs, helping any person who have a broken leg, for example, who needs to be on a wheelchair for some time. So making the building accessible helps everyone, not only people with disabilities. So physical environment barriers, like a place with a stairs, there's no ramp or rails, not equipped washroom, not doors cannot open automatically. Like we need to reduce the barriers as much as we can. We aim at an environment that is no barriers, that a person with any disability can go anywhere, anywhere, do any kind of job he wants to do, or reach to any place like any normal person with with less help as much as he can. So we have lack of access to accessible or convenient transportation for people who are not able to drive. Like even people who are physical disability, with the right support, they can even drive and they can use the public transportation. Lack of accessible equipment, and need for government interventions and policies. We need to have right intervention and policies. Even some people with quadriplegia need some assistive device. There are some devices that they can use only by their eye gaze or by their voice, that they can to have the right communication with others. So solutions we're looking for to alleviate the above challenges. DHA seeks solutions that will assist, of course, patients themselves, like devices, assistive devices or technologies that will help them reduce their physical challenges. Solutions that will help care providers, educational tools, strategies, and tracking things that we make sure that these care providers are getting the right help themselves and giving the right help and support to their patients also. Social and healthcare sectors also, we need to give them the support, and family members as well. So we're looking into solutions which could be products that would enhance accessibility to different places, communication between family members or healthcare providers, awareness to the community, and rehabilitation services also. Always we are promoting community-based rehabilitation services. So additionally, as we said, with all types of disability, we're looking into solutions that can collate and collect data for research analysis that could enable scientists enhance or develop products or services, and also help the administrative services develop policies and standards that enable people with physical disabilities. We need also education. There's very important role of education to the patients and families, and provide a similar case who become independent, empowered. Usually people are empowered, like those people who are disabled and they achieved a big thing, they became independent, they can be a really an important source of empowerment to others, to other people with disability. Okay, this is the finishing of my talk. I hope it was not long and boring. And if you have any questions, we're welcome to ask any questions. And also, I really advise you to do your own search, go through the environment. You can ask people around you with disability or family members with a person with disability. Of course, you will find them anywhere. Go visit schools who are including people with disability, special needs centers, learn more about it, and think of more solutions so you come with really great ideas. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Latifa. I hope it was a much more informative session for everyone. I mean, going in deep, understanding all the disabilities form that we have. And we hope to see great solutions coming up from you guys when we have the hack next week. I just want to run through, as we said, we are in the second part of the session. I'll have a quick walkthrough on what happens right from the time you submit your abstract. I hope everyone who has joined here have already submitted their abstract. If not, I would really urge you to do so. Go to Dubai Health Hack website, hit the submit button and write your abstract. So this is a similar screenshot that you'll find there. So you're going to give your, if you're participating as an individual or participating as a team, you have to give all in those details. And please write a minimum of 100 words as an abstract description. And this could be your idea that you are doing. This could be something that is you have started to develop or things like that. This gives us a very clear idea of what kind of a product or a solution is going to be developed during the hack. Okay, and I will also urge you to go to the website. You will have a section where we call it as the participation guide. You have a lot of documents that are available there. I'm just going to have a quick walkthrough of what is available, but I would again urge everyone to go through and read all those documents that are there. This is going to just give you more detailed information on what would be happening from the guidelines and the code of conduct, intellectual property rights, and things like that. So as we know, this is a 30-hour hack. We'll also upload the whole 2-day program session into the website, probably by end of the day today, so that you can know exactly what is going to happen during those 2 days. Now, the session will start at 8 o'clock in the morning. We want all the participants to be available by that time, but the official hacks will start from 9:30 on 21st of January and will go on till 22nd of January till 15:30, that is 3:30 p.m. Dubai time. So as I said, the teams have to be formed before the event, so please submit your details. The team can consist of participants from 1 to 5, and this is the choice of basically for you guys to select the number of participants you require. I think the intended idea, I mean, this is where we are talking about again the abstract. Please write a very, I would say, not so brief, because we have received some abstracts which is just like a one-liner. We don't want the abstracts to be like very, very precise. Right, given some details so that we understand what's the solution that's going to bring in. This is very important, code of conduct. As you know, there is a grand prize of 60,000 dirhams for the winner, and for the second place and the third place, there is like 30,000 and 10,000 dirhams. So as we know, we're just making it out straight that these prizes are not transferable. So if you're participating as a team, then the team leader that you will nominate will be the responsible for collecting this prize. The distribution of award is solely upon him. And I would also like to reiterate to just read the intellectual property rights, because we want to make sure that all these solutions that you're going to build, or that you're going to be, that you're already started to build, that you're going to, continue to build during the hack, or something that is being done, you have created that. And last but not the least, the very important point, Dubai Health Hack and Dubai Health Authority enforces a very absolute zero tolerance policy on racism, sexism, and any kind of abuse. So this is a simple, I would say, cut down of what will be there during the 30-hour hack. So we're going to give you, like, for example, there will be, you have the high bandwidth internet available during the complete session. You will have a table space, maximum to a, seating capacity of 5 for each team, depending on the team size that you will have. And we'll also have some sticky notes and some flip charts for you to collaborate during the hack itself. But we will not be providing any devices. Laptops and things like that have to be brought in by your own. And if you're developing some products or something, please make sure they are also available there. We will have mentors assigned during this the hack window. So the mentors will be from academic side. There will be mentors from the technology perspective. They will all give you more, I would say, leads to your solution, just guiding you so that to make sure that you have the perfect product that is being built. There, during the whole 2-day hack, we'll also have some short talks with respect to how to do rapid application development, and how do you do from a prototyping to taking to a final finished product, and how do you keep the user experience involved into the solution that you're building. So these are the small short talks that you will have during the hack. And this is a must, that you need to make sure that you do a 12-hour of coding during the hacks, during this 30-hour hack. So you need to sit down and write a piece of code if you're developing a full-fledged solution there. And then at the end, there are judges assigned to each teams, and I'll just move in to let you know what is the assessment criteria that the judges will be looking on. So they'll be looking on all these different parameters. In the next slide, I'll give you the weightage for each of them. So you will have the technical innovation part, which is the idea that you're presenting, the innovative idea that is there out of your solution or the product that you're creating, the creativity that is connected to that. And we also, though we understand within this window you will not have a full-fledged working product in place, but we want to see that execution or the demonstration of the product that you will build. Okay, and as I said, the design is also very important, because end of the day, these solutions or these products are is going to be used with someone who has one of those disabilities. So that has to be taken into account. So we'll also see the design aspect of it, and you'll see the sustainability part of the product that is being developed. Can it go to the market? Does it I would say resonate with what is happening currently around this community, where they need these kind of products or solutions to help them to take care of their day-to-day life. And the final thing is actually the pitch. How you are presenting it. This also takes into account. And I'll just flash in a moment. And this is how the judging form will look like. As I said, there is a weightage assigned to each of those parameters, and that's how the whole weightage is assigned. We are almost done with respect to what we have as 2 parts of the session. I really thank you for joining us. We have the third part, which is basically we'll introduce the API platform that you can use to develop your solutions, and I'll have Ms. Mehtab to present that session. And if you have any questions, right, from Dr. Latifa's session or from this the whole event track session, we would like you to log on, keep note of your questions, and you can send it over during the chat window, and then probably at the end we'll answer those questions. Okay, now I'll have Ms. Mehtab run the API session.
Hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining this session. And my name is Mehitab Hassan, one of the developer advocates at IBM. And um, in this session, we're gonna actually go over one of perhaps the platforms that you can utilize in order to build your solutions. This will probably will be more beneficial to you if, let's say, you're not sure what platform to use, you have ideas but you need help in certain aspects, or you want to improve and enhance your applications. Right? In the session, we're going to walk through, we're going to look at signing up in addition to an overview of the platform, and then we're going to, at the end of the webinar, build a very simple application. Two mini applications, I would say, right? So again, IBM Cloud is one of the platforms that provides you with infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and so on. Even function as a service. Depending on your application, you can utilize each. However, probably will be more focused on platform as a service and function as a service, and I'll explain each briefly. The platform provides to you up to 190 plus services. If you're utilizing a light account, you'll have around, let's say, 50 plus services. In order for you to get started, you'll see the link at the end of this slide, through which you can sign up. So if you go to ibm.biz/healthhack, you'll be able to sign up so that you can proceed. And feel free to follow along when we do the code lab at the very end. This is kind of an overview of what you might get. I'll open it for you to kind of see what you'll be getting exactly. So let's try this. ibm.biz. Yep. So I'm already signed in, but let me log out and show you what you will be getting. You also close this. All right. So again, if you went to the link, which is ibm.biz /help hack, you'll end up on this page. Again, you'll simply enter your email, enter all of the details, and click on create account. After that, you'll get a confirmation email, and of course, to show you an overview of what you'll get once you log in. So you'll be directed to this page, and then I'm just using my personal account, so username, password, login. We're going to be going over a quick tour of the platform in a bit after kind of going over a couple of slides, but just to give you an idea of what to expect. So this is just the dashboard you're expecting. Here you have, of course, if you need any help, it will provide it to you here in the chat. Because I have a couple of applications already, you'll see this. In your case, you'll just see that there are no applications. Now let's move on with the slides again. So again, just in case, when I mentioned at the very beginning, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and so on, and you have no idea what I'm talking about. Now, traditionally, we used to have just the legacy IT, where you had to take care of everything from infrastructure to security to setting the operating system or the virtualization, your virtual machines, in addition to taking care of the application and the data. In infrastructure as a service, all of the infrastructure is already taken care of. So things from data centers, network, and servers are already taken care of, and all they have to take care of would be, things like the operating system, the runtime, and then the application data. And in platform as a service, which will probably be the focus of what you're going to be utilizing on the platform, you only have to take care of your data and the application. Now, when you go to compute on the platform, you have different options. So things like if you want to create a bare metal server, or if you want to utilize containers, in addition to things like utilizing serverless computing, which is by using something called Cloud Functions. Now, as I mentioned before, your main focus will be probably more of a platform as a service. One of the things you can utilize would be Cloud Foundry runtimes, which will give you sort of a skeleton of an application such that you can build on top of it. So you don't have to worry about the dependencies, kind of setting up your runtime and so on. And you have, as you can see here, there are a lot of languages you can utilize. So based on your language of preference, use whatever you see fit. The second thing you might be interested in is Cloud Functions using which is serverless computing, basically. So the concept would be, it doesn't mean there are no servers, there are servers, but you don't have to take care of them 24/7. But rather, let's say if there is some sort of a trigger, a change within my database, then I would like to run a certain function or do a certain action. And that is really the idea behind serverless computing. Right? this is just an overview of the different languages that are already available for you to work with. So you have something called starter kits, or CloudFoundry applications, which are set up with different languages, and also starter kits are utilize a combination of both your let's say your own application, the runtime, in addition to external services, so connected directly immediately. It's directly connected to a database or bound to a database or a service, like one of the Watson AI services, which we'll go over in a bit. Some of the tools you can utilize, in addition to downloading the IBM Cloud CLI, so you can actually use the console in order to interact with your application. You can also utilize Visual Studio Code, so you can download, well, add the IBM Developer Tools plugin. You can also utilize the Eclipse Orion on the platform itself, so if you want to edit your code online directly, you can also do that. One point I forgot to mention, at the very end of the slide, you'll see that there is a link for you to install the CLI in case you're interested in utilizing it. Just a quick overview of some of the main things that are available on the platform. So again, you have things related to infrastructure. So what we focused on was more of CloudFoundry applications. In addition to the Watson services, I'll show you two demos so that you can get a better idea of what are the services available. Some of the, so you have conversation, or now it's called assistant. You have speech to text, text to speech. These are very intuitive. Assistant is in order for you to create a chatbot. Visual recognition, which will be able to identify different objects if you train it properly, or there are already a preset models that you can utilize. You can also look at the data analytics, which might be very beneficial in your case. So if you want to kind of analyze the different data related to maybe the health problems for each of the people of determination, perhaps you can utilize things from Watson Assistant, machine learning, and you have also the different databases you can utilize. And finally, you have things from utilizing IoT, if you're working with devices. You have mobile and web starter kits in order to make it easier for you to build mobile and web applications and so on, and function as a service. So I've already went quickly over these services. So these are the IBM Watson AI services. So things, again, creating chatbots, looking at the personality insights, and so on. If you're interested in looking at the SDKs, we have the link here. I'll show you just two demos so that you can get a better idea. So we're going to look at the visual recognition service as well as the Watson Assistant service. So let's switch here. In order for you to go and check these, all you have to do is go to ibm.com/Watson, which will have the different services. And then if you go under products, you can look at each of the different services. And if you scroll down, so let's say, for example, we're going to look at video recognition. In addition to the documentation and an overview, you can look at a demo here to get a better idea of, how the service works for users. So let's actually do this. So this is just an example of a custom model that was already trained. So just looking at identifying if this is a flat tire or there's vandalism and so on. So what kind of accidents perhaps that happened. And you'll see, for example, in this case, you have a flat tire and it's saying that it's 91% confident in it being that, while the rest is just 0%. If I choose another image, so this is my input image. Here it says it's 90% sure that it's a motorcycle accident and so on. Right? So you probably get the idea, and you can explore these in more depth. Let's just. So before we go and have a quick tour of the platform, one last thing I want to mention that might be beneficial to you based on whether working with mental health, intellectual health, or or physical health. Um, there is Watson IoT, so this uses MQTT protocol for those of you who know about it, in order to communicate between devices as well as so there's also Node-RED. So Node-RED, which is what we're going to be exploring today, allows you to create very simple flows like the one you see here. In order to, you can create a fully fledged application using these nodes. So it's a visual programming tool where you have each of the nodes acting as a function. It provides some sort of functionality rather. And then all you have to do is connect them in the right way, run your application, you're done. So rather than coding too much, you just code the most important part. Alright. So again, if you haven't created an account, I do urge you to create an account and explore. Perhaps you'll find something that that will help you build your solution. As well as, again, you can reach out to us, and we have the email in order to get in touch with me will be also there. Some of the resources that might be beneficial, I just want to show you the first one, which is the most important one. So you have developer.ibm.com. So let's say you have a solution, but you're wondering if there's something similar that you can utilize and improve on, not topic-wise, but rather technology-wise. So if we go to developer, then it's one of the resources you can utilize in building your solution. We go here. So again, you can look at each of the different topics here. So if I went, for example, let's select artificial intelligence, right? So you have these things like related to models, so maybe previously built models or code patterns, which are fully fledged applications, right? So for example here, you see the first one says that you can build an image classifier to help search for extraterrestrial life. In your case, it would be to build something perhaps to identify obstacles for those with some sort of a physical disability. That's just one of the things you can use. So you have here a flow, kind of, and then you can go to the README in order to read, look at what are the things, the prerequisites, how you can build it, and so on. So all of the steps are documented here. Right. So let's go and have a quick tour of the platform. So again, once you log in, you'll end up with this page. However, you won't have any applications if you haven't used the platform before. And then what you would need to do is go to catalog. By the way, there's a hamburger menu with a couple of things which we will look at, but the main place you'll look at would be catalog, and that really contains all of the services that you can utilize. So again, if you're interested in AI, for example, so remember the Watson AI services we've looked at. This one. Each of them are here, and if you want to, let's say I'm interested in visual recognition, you just click on that. You enter a name for your service. If you want to look at the documentation, you can see all of these links and how to utilize the API. Select the appropriate region. In this case, only Dallas is available, and so on. All you have to do is really click on create. So why not? Let's create. And by the way, the pricing plan here I've utilized is light, so this is free. You don't have to worry about it. But there are some restrictions in terms of the number of API calls you can. And it created the service for me. All right, let's go back to catalog to quickly look at what else is there. Again, you can also look at analytics and how you can optimize your decisions. You can look at databases. So there are different databases you can utilize in order to save the data. Well, that's the purpose of a database. But again, based on how you need to utilize the data, different types of databases will be utilized. You also have Internet of Things here. By the way, you'll see here that some of them have light and then IBM. So if we look at just light here, This is in order to make sure that we are just looking at the friends. Actually, I can do filter here, right? This is much easier. The filter, right? Yeah. Okay, let's go to Internet of Things. So you have here, for example, Internet of Things platform. So one of the services you can utilize, again, to communicate between different devices. Starter kits. So, for example, the one we're going to be using today is the Node.js Starter, which will will create for you a Node.js application where you can build your Node.js flow, as well as it will bind it to a cloud and database. You also have the different services for mobile and web. But what if I want to build a web application? Where are the starter kits for that? So in order to look for that, you go to the hamburger menu, and then let's say I'm interested in building a web application, so you click on that. And then you click on starter kit, and then you have the different options to look at based on, you know, what you're comfortable with. Right. If I want to go to the dashboard, by the way, you can either from the hamburger menu click on dashboard, or the way I prefer to do it is just click on IBM Cloud. Okay, I've talked a lot. Let's actually do something more interesting, right? So just let's go to the slides again. By the way, in case later on you're interested in also looking at what kind of events we have on IBM that are related to IBM Cloud, you can also visit the meetup page, but that's really for later. All right, so CodeLab. So what are we going to be building today? So we're building, again, as I said, two mini applications. One related to facial emotion recognition. So the inspiration behind this is really for people with autism syndrome conditions. And typically what you would see with them is, and correct me if I'm wrong, what you would typically see is they're not really good at identifying emotional expressions or expressing themselves. Additionally, they're not really good when it comes to communication. So one of the things that when I was looking around, I found an application, it was released in 2015, something called Look at Me application. It was Samsung phone application. So let me actually open the link to that. Yeah. So I've already added this link, and you'll see that from here, what are different features that they have looked into. But what I'm gonna try to do is just focus on the facial emotion recognition. So what we're gonna do is, based on an image, we're gonna identify what kind of an emotion it is, and you can build on top of that, of course. The second thing we're gonna do is build a very simple application, web page rather. So that you get an idea of how you can utilize Node.js to build just a simple web page that will be able to grab data using an external API. So I actually have, I can show you what the end products are. So for the web page, this is the end product. Just a simple web page, really. It took a couple of, I would say, 10 minutes to build it. And what it's doing, it's actually interactive with Bayanat. In order to grab data related to people of determination. So they have certain cards that identify people of determination. And I displayed them. But obviously you wouldn't do that, but I'm just giving you an example of how you can utilize the platform. As for the facial emotion recognition, this is what we're going to be building. So it will be able to take an image of me and then determine, okay, if I'm happy, sad, angry, and so on. Okay, let's get started. If you want to follow along, by the way, let me put this. You'll see that there is a link to the GitHub repository with all of the steps. So if you can all go to this link. So github.com, blah 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 blah. Just to show you what you would be expecting. If I go to this. So if you go to the web page, you'll end up with all of the steps, including signing in, Also, we're going to be using an external API. So what we're using is Face++, cognitive services, in order to determine what are the emotions available within the image. Just something to point out, again, to utilize this API, you'll need to have an API key and a API secret. And to do that, you will have to go here and create an account. So if you go to API key, if you don't have an account, or if you're already not logged in, it will prompt you to create an account. I've already logged in my case, and what I did is I created just a new API key. So if you click on Get API Key, just utilize the free one. By the way, there are only a very limited amount of API keys, not API keys, sorry, API calls. So bear that in mind. So if it fails at some point, it's probably because you've already went over the limit. So give your application a name. You have application category. So let's see what plus two, for example. Others. And then you can utilize, kind of select what is the platform you are utilizing the API on. So I'm just randomly selecting this and then submit. I've already created one, that's why it's saying that I already exceeded the number of free API keys. But if I go back, you'll see I've already created one here. And this is what we're going to be using on Node-RED. Thing is, we're going to be creating a Node-RED application. To do that, you go to your dashboard, and then you're going to go to catalog. By the way, if you have any questions, feel free to add them to the chat. I'll address them at the end of the session. And I'm frequently checking the chat, so don't worry. All right. So again, go to catalog, and then you need to go to Starter, and then you're going to be selecting Node-RED Starter. Right? So this is going to create two things. It's going to create a Node.js application, and it's going to create a CloudInDB and bind the CloudInDB to the application. Now give it a name. So let's say demo CSS. Again, the hosting needs to be unique. Select the appropriate region, and then select the plan you're interested in. In my case, I'm going to leave them as they are, so default, and then Cloudant will be light, and just click on create. Now, for your application to be up and running, it's going to take a couple of minutes, so around 3 to 4 minutes. In the meantime, I'm going to walk you through some of the resources that are important to look at. I already have an application created with everything set up, but there's something specific that I want to show you before utilizing that. Right, so you see it's still starting. After it's done, it's going to be running. So what are some of the resources you think that will be, I believe, they are going to be important when using Node-RED? Now, if you're completely new to this, one place I encourage you to go to is node-red.org. So you have things from the documentation. So how do I get started? So if I look at the user guide, for example, you'll see that it will also show you, for example, things like how do I write a function? How can I utilize what if I'm utilizing something that is asynchronously returning data, and so on. Okay. And then if I go back to the documentation, getting started, kind of shows me how I can utilize Node-RED on different platforms. So bear in mind, you don't have to use IBM Cloud to use Node-RED. You can actually have Node-RED installed locally on your laptop, installed on a Raspberry Pi, and so on. Okay. And the last thing on this site to look at is flows. So again, Node-RED works with creating your own flow and utilizing different nodes. Now, before you actually write your own function, there's a function node on Node-RED. You can look up, what you're interested in. So let's say if I'm interested in, let's say converting images to base 64. So you already have a node for that, and if I click on that, it kind of shows me how I can either add it, if you're running it locally, it shows you what command to run. If you're running it on IBM Cloud, I'm going to show you how you can add it, because this is one of the nodes actually you're going to be utilizing. Now this is for a node. Now if you're interested in a full flow, so sometimes the functionality you're looking at is only possible using a complete flow. So this is just an example. So how can you utilize decrypting a payload? So here you have a huge JSON object that you would be importing, and then it will show you kind of the entire flow there, right? We're going to see an example of this. Okay, so let me actually close this. And let's go to the application we're creating. Okay. So I'll just go to the dashboard to show you that it was actually added here. Yeah, so as you can see, it's still not up. Okay, so now it's running. If I click on, okay, it's not yet running. So if I go to logs, I think it's just finishing the last things needed to be done. Yeah, it's still kind of finishing things. Let's give it a couple of minutes. In the meantime, any questions related to, you know, I'm interested in building this certain application, is there such a service? Or can you show me where I can find, you know, how to build, I don't know, mobile applications, something like that. Feel free to share that in the chat. Okay. It's not on yet. Okay, maybe I'll show you on the application I've already created, also in order for us to save some time. So once your application is actually running, what you'll need to do in order to utilize an external kind of package in Node-RED, you can't really do it from inside the node. You have to do it from two files. You have to add them in two files. So to do that, you first have to enable continuous delivery. So you click on enable. This is to make sure that if there are any changes, you know, your code is always up to date, it's documented properly and so on. So you're creating something called a toolchain here. So I'm just going to keep the toolchain here as it is. And then under delivery pipeline, you need to create an IBM Cloud API key for continuous delivery. So all I have to do is really click on that, create, and just click on create. And that's how you end up creating kind of a toolchain, a simple toolchain. So I haven't really played around with this. You can add other tools, of course. Right. So I'm gonna switch to the other applications to save time. So let me go to the dashboard. And alright. So I'm just gonna go to the toolchain. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna edit it online. I'm gonna edit it on the platform using Eclipse Orient Web ID. So click on that. And then if I go back to the GitHub repository, just to walk you through what we have done so far. Again, we have already done this part where I've already created continuous delivery. And now what I need to do, as I mentioned, I'm using the Face++ external package, and to do that, I'll have to, you know, add the kind of the required statement somewhere. And you would be adding it under something called function global context variables. So if I go here, and then expand, and then if I go to Bluemix settings.js, and then I scroll down, you see that we have here the function global context variable, and all I have to do is add here the require statement in order to import the package I need. Now, in addition to adding it here, I have to tell my go to package.json and tell it which version I'm interested in. So if I go to package.json, you'll see that I've already added it here, as you can see. And I'm interested in the latest one. And these are the only two things in order to utilize any external package. So any package that where you usually have to do npm, for example, you can add it this way, right? So once I've done the changes, I just click on Git on the left. I'm just, at this point, I'm walking you through the steps I've done. And then here, you're going to add your commit statement. So let's say added blah, blah, blah. You're going to click on commit. And after which, you will be going here to push, and then push all. Right? Once you do that, you'll see the changes in the history here. And if you go back to the arrow here and go to delivery pipeline, you'll see that it would be building in the build stage and then followed up with the deployment stage. If you face any issues, you click on the logs and history to check it out. Okay. So hopefully so far so good. I hope people are not sleeping. Of course, again, as I mentioned, feel free to drop in any questions. If you're lost, that's normal because we're trying to consolidate a lot of things in a short amount of time. All right, so let's close this and go back to my application. So to access my application, okay, since I've already used this one, I'll show you something on the GitHub repository. Here. Yeah. So I'm not going to see this because I've already opened this application before, but in your case, let me try to zoom in. Okay, let me zoom in to show you what yeah. So once I'm going to click on visit application app URL, you'll end up on something similar to this page, and you have different steps to do. And the most important thing is for you to secure your Node-RED editor in order to make sure, not everyone who has the link is able to edit your flow. I had that happen to me before, and it was really a mess, so bear that in mind. So, and after that, you'll end up on this page where you're going to just click on go to your Node-RED flow editor. So this is just a small thing I wanted to mention. So, but we're not going to see it here again because I've already set that up. So click on visit. I'm going to just end up with go to your Node-RED flow editor. I'm going to click on that. Right. So remember the two applications I showed you. So these are actually the flows that were already created. Now where do I get each of these nodes? You see here on the left you have different nodes. So based on what I'm interested in, I can just filter it out. So the most important thing, I'm going to walk you through each of these nodes, so don't worry. But before we do that, just a quick tutorial. So these are each of the nodes. So let's say if I want to just test out things, you have an inject node to kind of see if what your data is like being passed down the flow. You have things like a debug node to look at what is the kind of the output of any nodes out there. Also have HTTP request and HTTP response. So these are for you to create your endpoint. So if we look here, you have HTTP in. So this is to create your endpoint, and at the end of it, you have to add the HTTP response in order for the person accessing that endpoint to get a response. Other nodes you might be interested in, you have OpenWhisk for the utilizing. This is for, remember when I was talking about serverless computing? So Cloud Functions would be using OpenWhisk nodes. So this is to OpenWhisk trigger, and of course you will be having a function node. So let's say if there is absolutely no node that would do the functionality you're looking for, you're just gonna drag this guy and edit it. So what other things are made? HTTP request, if you want to try to send an HTTP request, whether it's a GET, POST, PRESS, and so on. You have social media, and at the very end, you'll see that you have the different IBM Watson AI services. Remember Assistant, you have, when I was talking about visual recognition, and so on. Okay. Then here you have the hamburger menu. So you can do different things here. Let's actually do that. So you can import a flow. So let's say if you want to export it and give it to someone else, or you want to import it into your own Node-RED editor, what you would do is, for example, in our case, we do need to import two flows, one for the emotion recognition and one for the sample classification. If you go to JSON, to the JSON object on the GitHub repository, and let's try to copy this guy. Alright. I'm just going to show you an example. Go back, and then if I click on import, and then I click here and paste, all I have to do is paste it and then click import, and you'll see that a new tab was added with all of the nodes added here. Okay, and you would do the same thing for the web application. Now, before you can utilize anything, so I told you that you can actually add other nodes. So you have here a limited number of nodes, but if I'm interested in other nodes, I would go to node-red.org and look for them. So some of the nodes we are interested in here and we are going to utilize is one. So I've actually added them here for your convenience. If you go to the GitHub repository as well. So I just want to make sure you know where are the different information here. That's why I keep going back and forth. So under creating the flow, you'll see that there are three different kind of collection of nodes that we need to install. So I have the Node-RED contribute browser util. So I do this, you'll see I have the node, and then here it says installed. But if it's not installed, it would tell you to install. So just to show you, for example, if I'm interested in the first one, you just click on install. If you're sure, you're going to click on install, and then it will add the nodes. And the first one we've added, if you're interested in looking at the details, you can click on the box with the arrow coming out of it, and you'll see what are the different nodes that will be added. And these have been added once I've clicked on install. What we're interested in is the camera one, right? The other one is the base64. So this is just to convert, I have an image and I would like to convert 64 format, base64 format. And the last one I'm interested in is Node-RED-dashboard. So this one. What this is gonna install for me, I can show you here on the left so that you can see it's actually installed. If we scroll down, so these different nodes were added when I tried to install the Node-RED-dashboard. So things like creating, so this creates a dashboard, and you can add a button, you can add a switch, you can add text, and so on. We're utilizing here two things, templates and text. Okay. So I'll just walk you through the entire thing and what are the changes you will need to do. Right. So again, the camera one, if we look for camera, you'll see that was added based on the kind of the collection of nodes we've installed, the first one. And then you have base64. By the way, if you double click on it, if there are any configurations needed, you'll be able to change them here. If you need to know some information, you click on the kind of the eye icon, the information icon here. It shows you information of how you can utilize the node. The dashboard node, which is the bug looking one, is in order to utilize things like this node, the debug node. Remember, debug, which is this guy. This means I don't want to look at the output. If I click on it again and it's outside, it means I'm going to be getting the output here. Also, any change that I do, I need to click on deploy in order for it to work. So before we actually move on, I'll just disconnect this part and deploy, just to show you an example. So here it's going to take a picture of me. So just, and as you can see here, I can see the entire payload here. If I'm interested in something specific, I can select message dot and then I can choose, let's say, payload. So I'm only interested in payloads within that object. Okay. Now template node. Now for the template node, let's go to information again. This is if you want to, I mean, as the name suggests, it's just to provide a template. So a way, so usually you can utilize it for HTML, for CSS, for example. So you're trying to maintain a certain format throughout that specific node. And then if you want to pass something from a previous node, you just utilize the mustache kind of template. So here, I'm just adding three curly brackets surrounding what I'm getting from the previous node, three curly brackets in order to pass it to this node and utilize it. So this is in order for me to display an image in the dashboard. And then I'm using the template node that is part of the dashboard. So just in case you're confused, there are two template nodes. So one on the function which we have explored. This is just to make sure everything is within a proper template. And then you have, that's part of the dashboard in order to display it. So if I double click on it, what it's going to do is it's going to take from the previous node and put it inside a div in case you've done some, you've utilized HTML before. Okay. So this is just to get an image. If you want to check if it works, by the way, once you install the dashboard, you'll have this additional one dashboard. The reason why I have to is because I imported it twice. Let's delete this one. I don't need it. This is, anyway, that's fine. So let's test it out. Deploy. And if I actually click on the square with the arrow coming out of it, you'll see that I go to the dashboard here. And this is me. Alright. So this is what we have implemented so far is really just the image part, right? Changes, review change. Right. Okay. Moving on. So as I mentioned, we're using the Face++ API or extended package. So what I've done here is I've utilized the function node, and I'm getting, remember we have added it to a global context variable. So in order to grab that, I just do global.get and the name of that kind of package. Remember in the require I give it a name in bluemix.setting, bluemix-setting. Then it requires an API key and API secret. Where do you get that from? Again, go to API key, have the API key and the API secret. Where was he? Yeah. And then all I'm doing here is I'm utilizing really the package. If you go to the NPM website, you'll actually see it explaining how you can utilize it. So all I did is really something very similar to this. It's not the same, right? And then what I'm doing is, in order to use it, you need to send a post request. So you can also do it here. And I'm just, once I get the data, so this is asynchronous, by the way. So this part, it will return to me asynchronously the emotions, the age, and the gender. So because it's asynchronous, the way I will be able to send it to the next node, I just do node.send, and that will send it to the next node. and I'm just sending the results. So as you can see here, I get the result, and then I'm sending it under payload. Right. And then what I'm doing here, again, another function node. I keep forgetting to show you the nodes. So this is the function node, in case you're interested to know where to find it. So after I get all of the emotions, the age, and the gender, I'm only interested in emotion, let's say. So I want to extract the data. So what I'm going to be doing is, this is a very kind of long code. Well, it's not that long, but it's just me saying that I want to just get the most dominant expression. Just to give you an idea of what you would get, so let's disable this. And let's look at the message. In case you're not sure, okay, how am I supposed to know what I'm interested in? So let's do this. So it's taking an image for me. And now, it's supposed to show it here. Yeah. As you can see, so this is the debug node. And if I'm interested, let's say, in a specific location, so here, emotion, I'm interested in this guy, so I can actually copy the path from here. So if you can see the greater than and then the underscore, just click on that. Then if I go here, just to show you what was copied. So I actually copied that path, and I can use it. But all you have to do here is add message, because that's how nodes communicate, through messages going down the flow. And then the reason why this is different than the previous node, so as you can see here, it says return message. It's because it's returning the synchronous, not the asynchronous. To pass information, if it's synchronously, you just do a return message or whatever you want from that message. So it can be dot, payload, and so on. All right. Once we're done with that, what I wanted to do is just utilize also the Cloudin database, just to show you how we can use this service. So this service is already bound to the application, so I don't have to enter any credentials. I'll show you a case where you have to enter credentials. And what I did is, in the database, I've created a database called Space++, and then I'm inserting to that. Where can I find this guy? Database. Sorry, Cloudin. My bad. And it's this. So it's Cloudin out. And then the final thing is, I want to display it as a text, the dominant emotion. So text. And then under dashboard, you'll see that there's here the text node. The UI text. Okay. And you click on deploy. We test it out. So let's say I'm extremely angry, for example. I'm really mad. I want to see if it will pick that up. Well, it shows neutral. Okay. I wasn't angry enough. Something like this, very angry. Okay, it shows disgust. So because I can't really see the image, but you get the point. Based on the image, it will be able to text the emotion here. It says here disgust, for example. Well, my face does look a bit disgusted, I guess. Okay. I did say that we're using CloudinDB, but you need to create a database. So I'm going back to the application just to show you quickly how to do that. So in connections, since I've already created it, click on Cloudin, whatever is bound already. And then you click on alias of Cloudin, blah, blah. And then you're going to launch the Cloudin database. Any questions? Right. And as you can see, I've already created. Now, to create a new one, you just click on Create Database, and let's say DB. Let's keep it simple. You click on Create, and that will create the database for you. So, create a new one with zero documents. Okay. Now, going back to the application. Ignore. Okay, now I know what's happening. So this is for the first one. Now for the second one, again, what you can do is go again to the GitHub repository, and you'll see the second JSON. So the first one was the emotion recognition, second one is sample web page. You can import it as well to get something like this. And this is very simple. So again, remember HTTP in, this is create an endpoint. If I double click on it, all I did is give it a name at the very, what is the route of the endpoint. And then at the very end, you'll see this guy, which is HTTP response, right? And in the middle, you can do whatever. In my case, I want to actually create a web page. So first, I have to set the headers. So I'm just returning normal text, a plain text. So saying message with header content type. This is a change node. So click on change. This is in order for you to set, delete, move anything. So if you can look here, I'm trying to set messages headers to a certain value. You can select right away if you want a number, a boolean, a JSON, and so on. So there are different types you can set. Then I am requesting from Bayanat. So I'm using HTTP request to get the table that I showed you, just to give you an idea where and how I came up with the kind of the URL here. All I did is I went to Bayanat. So if I go here, and what I looked up is people of determination of what data perhaps is available or not. And I found this database that has a couple of cards. So we have 100 entries here. To use the API, I just click on API, and it shows you here how you can query. So again, it's the database store search. And then what you need to do, because I would like to utilize a certain source, so resource, you just add the resource ID as you can see here. So if you add, so it's really, what I did is copied this and removed the limit of 5, so I displayed all of them, 400. Alright. Oops. No, I'm returning a JSON object, normal, that's it. Next, just extracting what I need. So again, what you would do is have a debug node, look at the JSON object, and make sure that you're extracting the right thing. So based on what I've seen, this is what I'm interested in. I'm just interested in the record. I'm setting it to message.payload, just to make things easier for me down the line. And then I'm using a template node, which we have seen, a normal template, not a dashboard template node. And this is for the CSS of my application. So just, the styling, I've added it here. This is up to you really. And then what I've done is also created HTML, but in order to utilize the style, remember I told you about the mustache template. So I just added that here under style. And then the rest is really the same. I'm getting the data normally. So if we go down to see what I'm talking about. Yeah, so based on the data I got, as you can see here, so I'm extracting things from the payload and adding it to my table. Alright, I'll show you the table so you get a better idea. And that is really it. And by the way, I was using Bootstrap before. And that is really it. So if I'm interested in looking at the application. So let's copy. Let's close this one since I opened it before. And I'm just adding the endpoint. So so you have here my route is really sample web app. Go there. Give it just a minute to load. And if I click on people with determination cards, here's the table that I was talking about being displayed. So displayed all of the 100 entries here. And that is really it for the demo. Any questions? Is anyone still here? Okay. I hope it wasn't that boring. I was trying to kind of show you everything you can do with Node-RED in a very simple application within less than an hour. Just at the very end of the slides, I just want to show you some of the resources you might find valuable while building your solution. So again, the one I've utilized was Bionat Open Data Portal. So you have other things like, for example, Open FDA or things related to drugs and food, and so on. And that is really it. Oh, where's the slide here? Anyway, thank you so much. Again, feel free to reach out to me if you are interested. There is something in the chat. Please share the slides with everyone. Yeah, definitely. We will be sharing all of the slides with all of the participants, so don't worry. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you so much, everyone. I'll give the floor to my colleague. Sir?
Okay. Fine. Okay, that's it, guys. I hope it was a very informative session, and we would, as requested, we will send the slides to you, and Priyanka, your coordinator, will be in touch with you. So we hope to see you on the 21st. As we said, we are super excited to see your products and solutions that you'll bring forth. Have a lovely day ahead, and see you on 21st. Thank you.